In today's video, I will be taking a look at a updated 2024 presidential election prediction between Joe Biden and Nikki Haley. Joe Biden, of course, being the incumbent president, and Nikki Haley being the former South Carolina governor and former United States ambassador to the United Nations. So first off, we're gonna look at Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley has been consistently polling above someone like Donald Trump or even someone like Ron DeSantis, which shows that she is a more electable candidate in general. I think that's because voters are generally exhausted between a Joe Biden Donald Trump matchup and want someone new. Now, Nikki Haley is not that well known. You can see that there's about 30% of the nation that does not recognize Nikki Haley's name. Therefore, they're not classifying her as either favorable or unfavorable. Or maybe they just have not made up their mind about her yet. Nevertheless, she is a Republican primary contender, and that she is still significantly performing better than someone like Joe Biden or Donald Trump, who are both below water by about 15 to 20 percentage points. Now let's get right into today's video. Now I do have South Carolina saved here because she is the former governor of the state of South Carolina. Now, first off, I'm going to start off by giving Nikki Haley her likely states. Alaska is certainly a likely state for Nikki Haley, as well as that Iowa and Ohio. Both of these states voted for Donald Trump here in 2020 by 8 percentage points. Now, and although I think she'll perform considerably worse than someone like Donald Trump in these two states, I think that because of the trends that she's still going to be able to win both of these states by just over 5 percentage points. I also think the state that she might do worse than Trump in is the state of Florida. Ron DeSantis won the state by 16 points in his governor election race, and I think that someone like Nikki Haley will not be able to replicate that performance or be able to nearly achieve that level. Nevertheless, I do believe that Donald Trump will do better than Nikki Haley, but Nikki Haley will still do well enough to win the state by a likely margin because of the trends in the state of Florida and really across the panhandle and across many of the Hispanic regions all across the United States. Finally, going to the state of Texas. The state of Texas here, I do believe, will go to Nikki Haley by a likely margin. I think that some of the trends here may be more favorable to the Democratic Party. We see that areas like Houston, Austin, the Dallas-Fort Worth region, and as well as San Antonio, these are all areas trending towards the Democratic Party. Nevertheless, rural areas are still trending towards Republicans. I think that Nikki Haley will do decently in some of the suburbanites and also do decently with Hispanics and still win the state by just over 5 percentage points against Joe Biden, who is not, as of right now, the most popular candidate. I also think that Maine 2nd District will go to Nikki Haley by a likely margin of about 5 to 6 percentage points. Now, I think Joe Biden here will still have his likely states, Colorado, New Mexico, Virginia. Nothing to discuss there. I think that he'll also be able to win the state of Maine by a likely margin. And I think that he'll also be able to win the state of Minnesota by a likely margin. Now, the explanation for that is pretty simple. Someone like Nikki Haley will not do that well in some of the Rust Belt states. She will probably do better in some of the Sun Belt states, though. I think that she'll also do not that well in some of the rural regions where she needs to drive up turnout to have any remote chance of actually winning the state. I think that she will do better in some of the Minneapolis regions, but not nearly enough to end up winning the state or even getting that close to winning the state. Now that's pretty much it for the likely states for both sides. Now let's go to the lean and tilt states. So I'm going to start off with the state of Nevada here. Now, the state of Nevada here voted for Joe Biden here by 2.4 percentage points. He barely cracked 50% of the vote. Trends are not that good for Democrats in the state. Long term suggests that they're probably going to lose the state by a pretty solid margin by the 2030s or 2040s. Nevertheless, someone like Nikki Haley could also do pretty well here with some of the Las Vegas voters where Republicans desperately need to improve in. But she'll also lose the base in some of the areas in the state of Nevada, and the Republican primary polling here is suggesting that she's not going to do very well with some of the rural voters that are really only loyal to someone like Donald Trump and not someone like Nikki Haley. All factors being considered, I still think that Nikki Haley will probably win the state just because Clark County is such a significant population pocket in the state, and that is somewhere that Nikki Haley could do better with, and I think could improve enough to be able to win the state of Nevada by a tilt margin. Now going to the state of Arizona here. Arizona is a state that's trending to the Democratic Party, but is a historically more conservative state. Nikki Haley is aligned more so with moderates as opposed to really conservative candidates like someone like Donald Trump, who is MAGA, or someone like Ron DeSantis, who is also ultra conservative on most issues. She is a more moderate choice, and I think voters in the state of Arizona, a more generically and traditionally conservative state, will end up supporting someone like Nikki Haley over someone like Donald Trump, especially the moderate voters in Phoenix that voted against Donald Trump but will probably be inclined to vote for Nikki Haley. I think that Haley will still be able to win, especially because of the unpopularity of Joe Biden as of right now, and I think that by the election he won't be improving that much either. Now going to the state of Georgia. The state of Georgia here is um it it doesn't look good for Joe Biden either. I mean the trends look very good for the Democratic Party. You see that the Atlanta region is trending very much to the Democratic Party, and that the rural areas really aren't offsetting that trend that much. You see that there are some rural counties that are offsetting this trend, but there are also some rural counties that are trending towards the Democratic Party. Nevertheless, someone like Nikki Haley could do better in the suburban regions, or at least lower some turnout, and therefore I think that Democrats again will come just shy of actually winning the state of Georgia. Now I'm gonna go up to the state of North Carolina, where you can see right now Nikki Haley is very close to winning the presidency. I think that she'll do better than someone like Donald Trump, for instance, especially in the Sun Belt, but in the Rust Belt, she might do worse in. So in the state of North Carolina here, I think that the state of North Carolina will vote for Nikki Haley. And the reason's pretty simple. Trump won the state in 2020. I don't think that Nikki Haley will do worse than Trump did in 2020, considering Trump did lose the election. Now Nikki Haley's on track to do better than him, at least in some of the Sunbelt states. Now I do think that Nikki Haley will do worse in the rural regions, but I think that Joe Biden will definitely not perform as well with the suburban voters. That's where Nikki Haley's strength is, with at least Republican primary voters, that she's able to do better in some of the suburban regions and less well in some of the rural regions. And I think that turnout in the urban regions will be generally lower than what it was under Donald Trump, where there was a lot of voters who voted against Donald Trump and not really for Joe Biden. Those voters will not turn out again for Joe Biden in the same way they did in 2020. So moving on here, I do believe that the next state will be the state. I'm going to go to the state of New Hampshire first. New Hampshire is somewhere where Nikki Haley is actually polling quite well in the Republican primary. Voters in New Hampshire may like her more than someone like Donald Trump, who has made some relatively foul remarks about the state. Trump is definitely not going to win the state of New Hampshire, a state that is demographically definitely trending towards the Democratic Party. White college educated voters are the predominant group that are trending towards Democrats, and less college educated voters are trending towards the Republican Party. The state is very college educated, very moderate, perfectly ideal for Nikki Haley to do well in. Nevertheless, I do believe that just the general trend overall across the United States will still give Joe Biden the state. The next state will be Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District, which will here again vote for Joe Biden. Again, Biden won the district by 7 in 2020. I think Nikki Haley will probably cut that margin in half, but still not enough to win the state. The district, rather. Now going to the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan here voted for Joe Biden by 3%. As I said, Nikki Haley will not do as well with some of the more conservative vote overall. And I think that in this case, that Nikki Haley will not be able to do well with the rural voters, and I think that her appeal to suburbanites will not be enough for her to win the state, considering Trump lost the state by more than 150,000 votes. That's still a large burden to overcome as a candidate who is not the incumbent. So I'm gonna give the state of Michigan towards Joe Biden. Now going to the state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, Joe Biden was born in the state of Pennsylvania, and that some of the suburbs still look pretty good for Joe Biden. And the rural areas are not going to look good for Nikki Haley. because Joe Biden has a lot of vote pockets in the state, such as the Philadelphia, the suburbs, as well as Pittsburgh. It's going to be hard for Nikki Haley to actually overcome that. Again, Trump lost the state by about 70,000 votes, which is not that significant of a margin, rather 80,000 votes, but still, this is not going to be easy for Nikki Haley to overcome, considering her appeal, and really the turnout with rural voters is going to be pretty low compared to what it was with Donald Trump. So the state will end up going to probably Joe Biden here. And finally, to the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin's by far the most conservative state out of the three Rust Belt states. The state voted for Joe Biden by just 0.7 percentage points, or by just 20,000 votes. Nikki Haley can do considerably better in some of the areas around Waukesha County, the Wild counties, these three counties, and that she'll also lower turnout in Milwaukee and Dane County. That's more than sufficient for her to win the state. And I think that in this case, she will probably do decently with the rural voters, while also getting these pretty substantial gains in some of the wild counties as well as the urban counties, and therefore end up winning the state against Joe Biden. So I still think this will be a close election, but still I do believe Nikki Haley will win the election. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.